The console wars is back. The PS3 is in the lead with a big victory in the exclusive games round. And in the second to last round of the series, we're going to be looking at the future of the game consoles. What new peripherals and innovative content can you still expect from this generation, and which console has a brighter future? In this round, you'll soon find out. It's LP from Techno Buffalo, and welcome to the next installment of the Console Wars. So, today we're looking into the future. I'm going to be talking about stuff that hasn't happened yet, so we're treading on some pretty tricky territory. And this may very well be the round that the future me looks back at and says, man, your predictions were fail. But in any case, I'll do my best to predict what's to come, and I'll let the future play itself out. To look into the future, we first have to take a look into the past. If we look at the product cycle of your average game console, we notice that the console manufacturers have launched a device about every 5 years. This generation has shown signs of the ball game changing entirely. There hasn't been even a hint of rumors of the next Xbox, and it's soon been 5 years since the launch of the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 and PS3 should be hitting their twilight years, but it seems they're far from it. And why is this, you ask? Well, there are several reasons that have contributed to this. Firstly, as games get more and more complex, the cost and time to make a single game have gone up. The guys at Remedy Entertainment over here in Finland have been making Alan Wake for the past 6 years. That's longer than the Xbox 360 has been on the market. Hardware architecture is exponentially more complex than in previous generations, and looking at the games on both the Xbox 360 and PS3, we can notice that developers have learned how to better tap into the power of the consoles the further we've come along in the product cycle. So production times have gone up, that's one. Another very important factor that has led to the lengthening of game console product cycles has been the fact that hardware has been less limiting than in previous generations. If you look at, let's say, the Nintendo 8-bit system, there's not an insane amount of stuff you can do with the hardware. 99% of the games are pretty much 2D side-scrollers. But these days, the most limiting factor this generation has become the skills and ingenuity of the developers. But the most important factor that has and will continue to extend this generation are the online services that have begun to evolve the platforms far beyond what the hardware can do. The services, the community, and overall experience have trumped the need for increasingly better graphics. And I consider this ultimately good for the consumers as well. There's no need to upgrade to a new console every 5 years, and there's no need to experience pretty lame launch titles as often. Because we all know that for the first few years the games on the consoles can be a bit rough around the edges. And the best games are usually released a bit later in the game. So the further we are along in the product cycle, the more quality content we can usually expect. And from the perspective of the developer, learning new hardware can be a pain, and releasing games for a new platform with a limited installed base can be frustrating, as game sales are only a fraction what they could and should be. For example, Metal Gear Solid 4. Excellent game, but it only sold okay because the PS3's installed base was limited back when the game launched. Now with the PS3's attach rates up, the game would have sold triple. Overall, a longer product cycle, I think, is beneficial to all parties. So I'd say don't expect the next generation of consoles from either Sony or Microsoft for at least 2 to 3 years. After the success of the Nintendo Wii, both Microsoft and Sony have been trying to create something of similar appeal. Last year at E3, Microsoft introduced its own motion sensing technology, codenamed Project Natal. Microsoft is describing it as controller-free gaming and entertainment experience. The technology is based on the Project Natal sensor, which combines depth sensing of an infrared projector combined with a monochrome CMOS sensor. To put it simply, the two sensors allow the Project Natal device to see in 3D. And the device is able of registering movement in 3D space. It also recognizes physical stationary elements such as furniture. So basically what Natal does is that it recognizes gestures. Natal is capable of simultaneously tracking up to 4 users, and it calculates up to 48 skeletal points on the human body. Not only does Natal have advanced gesture recognition, it also has facial recognition and voice recognition. But apparently Microsoft has plans to incorporate Natal into the new Xbox experience as well, which I think will have some definite practical appeal. Instead of tapping on your D-pad to get around, you can just wave your hand in the air to slide between pages. And if this feature works on Windows Media Center as well, I'm going to be sold. And this is going to be a feature that will appeal to the girlfriend or wife as well. A game controller can be a pretty intimidating piece of hardware, and if we take the controller out of the equation, you never know. There just might be a new wave of female gamers after the release of Natal. And this is definitely what Microsoft is going for. Sony, of course, has been working on its own motion sensing technology to compete with Natal, but Sony's gone with a more traditional controller approach. The PlayStation Move controller setup has a striking resemblance to the Wiimote and Nunchuck, with the exception of the colored light bulb on top of the wand. The Move controller uses the PlayStation Eye webcam to track the wand's position. The purpose of the orb on the controller is to function as an active marker which the PlayStation Eye picks up. The shape and exact size of the orb enables the controller's position to be tracked in 3D space with high precision. But that's not all, folks. Inside the wand are a pair of inertial sensors that track the rotation and overall motion. There's also an internal magnetometer which automatically calibrates the controller's orientation against the Earth's magnetic field. The Move controller also features vibration feedback, and the orb can also be used to provide some visual feedback, such as the muzzle flash of a gun. So basically, the PlayStation Move is a doped up Wiimote. By the looks of it, both companies have come up with some impressive hardware to compete against the Wii. But if you look at game sales on the Wii, we notice that the only games making serious cash on the Wii are first-party Nintendo titles. And you can criticize Wii and Nintendo all you want, but Nintendo knows how to make fun games that sell in the millions. And ultimately, the success of Natal and Move will depend on exactly that, the quality of games and how motion controls are implemented. Both Sony and Microsoft need that killer app to sell the system. It can be a simple game like Wii Sports, or something entirely new. And I'll go out to say this, if Sony were to make a deal with LucasArts to make a lightsaber game, they'd have a serious contender in their hands. But for now, the PlayStation Move basically seems like a Wii HD, and I'm not entirely sure that it's enough. But Natal, on the other hand, is something entirely new. It has a very simple control scheme that anyone can pick up. Or actually, not pick up. You get the point. But you know what type of game would be excellent for Natal? Drinking games. It's an untapped territory, and it would definitely appeal to the Xbox 360's current audience. Heck, I'd buy it.